This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can. It's time we try, it's time we dare, it's time to stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles show. My name is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and a Southern Survival International Global Messenger of Special Olympics. And this is, we're pre-recording this, it's still 2021, but this is, by the time you all hear this live, Happy New Year. It is 2022, and we are continuing our road to the 2022 USA Games podcast series to kick off the new year, because in just 5 months, 6 months from now, the Special Olympics 2022 USA Games will be happening in Orlando, Florida, in Disney. And 2022 Special Olympics USA Games.org is where you can go to learn more about that event. I'm excited to kind of kick off the new year with an athlete from my own home state here in Illinois. So please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Alex Huegen to the Special Chronicles show. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Daniel.
And I think this is the first time that you've been on this podcast.
This is correct.
Yeah. So, and this series we have it's what 5? Well, because this is going live in beginning of January 2022. So it's what 5-6 months away from the
Yes,
US Games?
5 months from now.
5 months from now. And so let's have you begin and introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us the disability you're diagnosed with, and your role in Special Olympics Illinois.
Hi, my name is Alex Huegen. I have autism, and I am an athlete leader. So during COVID, our athlete leadership activities really picked up. We've done many cool things like fun nights, virtual bingo, and a lot of other cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's now get into a little bit of your backstory and tell us about the early years growing up with disability, and kind of a little bit about your younger years when you were growing up.
So I don't remember much until about age 5, but I know that I was diagnosed with a disability at age 2. But it was a bit harder. I was bullied back in my younger days, and then I joined Special Olympics in 2011.
Awesome. And then and when you joined, what we'll get to a little bit more in the next segment, but what sports did you begin with?
My first sport was softball, and I did bowling too.
Awesome.
And then come wintertime, we did basketball, snowshoeing.
Neat. So let's now kind of get back to your backstory and tell us about some of the challenges and joys and accomplishments that you have because of your disability. Because as we all know, like myself and the other 23,000 athletes in Illinois, we all have challenges every day, but then we also have joys and accomplishments because of Special Olympics. So tell us about some of the challenges and then some of the joys and accomplishments that you have had.
One of the challenges that I've had is mainly organization and stemming a little bit, and then a couple other things like stuttering and stuff like that. Yeah. But the accomplishments I've had because of my disability are being able to join Special Olympics, meeting new friends like you,
Yep.
And other people like Eric and such, because
Yep.
celebrating the 50th, there's a list of things that had I not had a disability, I wouldn't have been able to do, like meet a bunch of people around the U.S. when the 50th came to Chicago.
Yeah. And what we'll get into a little later on in the episode, you'll get to meet even more people from across the U.S. when you're competing at the USA Games, right? So let's move on and tell us about some of the highlights from some of your life experiences. Any highlights?
So I joined Special Olympics 2011. I was in 5th grade. And then a couple months after I joined, I believe it was under 9 months, they asked me to do Global Messenger training. So April, I did Global Messenger training, became Global Messenger, given a variety of speeches since then. My first state games were at Galena, and so I actually made state my first year in the shorter distances.
Awesome.
And then my first ever summer games, I competed in bocce.
Neat.
I've done mostly track since then, but I did start out with bocce in state games.
Neat. So let's now continue a little bit more with your backstory. And out of all of your life experience, how has your life experience and Special Olympics experiences from competing and being an athlete leader shaped the person that you are today?
So being an athlete leader has taught me leadership and how I should lead. So has my senior year, I was asked to be kind of a subsection leader. That I didn't volunteer. I was voluntold that one.
Yeah.
But being an athlete leader has enabled me to lead and grew me better as a person.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into a little bit more in the next couple of segments about your involvement in Special Olympics and preparing for the upcoming USA Games and about involvement in athlete leadership in the next break. But first, we're going to go ahead and take a sponsor break because if it wasn't for our supporters, we wouldn't be able to be behind the microphone and be talking today and keeping the lights on and all that. So our guest is Alex Huegen, her fellow athlete leader in Special Olympics Illinois, as we continue this series on the road to the 2022 USA Games in Orlando in just 5 months from now when the podcast continues right here on SpecialChronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. Our guest is Alex Huegen from Special Olympics Illinois as we continue this series on the road to the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games. And so in your introduction, Alex, you told us a little bit about your involvement in sports and Special Olympics, but tell us now a little bit more about how you folks got involved in Special Olympics, who told you about the movement, and how did you folks get involved?
So it was 2011. My mom asked if I wanted to join Special Olympics. I was a little bit reluctant, but I did so. They took me in without asking any questions.
Awesome. And that first sport that you participated in
Was softball.
softball, and then from softball you went to
Bowling, bocce,
yeah.
then basketball and snowshoeing.
Okay. And then when did, because I know track and field is also a big sport that you compete in now, right?
Right.
When did you start track and field?
I think we started practicing in March, I believe.
Okay. And so that came after you started snowshoeing, right?
Right.
So did you find that competing in snowshoeing did that help with?
Yes, it did.
With track and field? Can you tell us a little bit about how competing in snowshoeing? Because we know what those sports are, but like for some listeners that might not know, it kind of tell us how snowshoe helped prepare you for track and field.
So snowshoeing, you have a bit of weight on you, more than if you were running track and field, because you're wearing basically tennis rackets on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to run on. Instead, it's snow down here. Where I live in our neck of the woods, we really don't get snow.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
so I don't know how much snow you guys.
Yeah, we get a lot of snow up here, and even up in Galena, where the state Winter Games is. I mean, there was even a lot more snow up in northern Illinois. So, let's now kind of get continue talking about involvement in Special Olympics, and share with us what you enjoy most about your involvement with Special Olympics, from competing in sports to the athlete leadership programs. What do you kind of enjoy overall about this movement?
So I really enjoy sports and leadership activities, but there's no sports for leadership activities that can beat meeting new friends every Special Olympics event.
Yeah, absolutely.
And connecting with friends that I only see maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, and some other guests on this program have described it kind of like a second family. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree with that.
Awesome. So let's now get into the big news. And if listeners will just listen to the audio podcast, go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter Live when this to watch the video version of this. But you'll see in the background on my side of the screen the Special Olympics USA Games backdrop is right behind me, and so that's a good transition for having you share with us about how you heard about the news of being selected to compete at our national games, the upcoming 2022 Special Olympics USA Games in Orlando.
So I heard about it through my mom and through Carolyn, but I was finally officially able to share it after October the 9th. That is when the training was. That is when we went up to Bloomington, met, and discussed a lot of things. But I will be competing in track and field.
Awesome.
And I'll be doing something with long distance.
Yeah. So, are you just going to compete in long distance, or are you going to compete in anything else within the track and field?
I think I'm just going to compete in long distance, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, when you first found out the news, can comment on your excitement and how you excited and kind of what was your reaction to the news of because it's for there's not that many athletes within our state that will get selected to compete with Team Illinois. So what share with us a little bit more about your reaction to the news of getting.
I was very surprised, but I am very excited because this is something that you only get to do once, maybe twice in a lifetime.
Yeah. Awesome. So if our listeners are just listening to the audio, go check out the video on YouTube and Facebook, and you can see our faces. And another thing, in addition to the USA Games 2022 USA Games logo in the background, you also see behind me where it says #ShineAsOne. So that is a phrase that I believe is going along with the with all national games and on next week's episode we'll be having on the president and CEO of the USA Games on this podcast, so maybe we'll get to hear a little bit more of how they chose ShineAsOne. But when you see this phrase, Alex, ShineAsOne, can you share with us what does ShineAsOne mean to you, and how is that related to the USA Games?
So we are all, at the end of the day, so ShineAsOne means that we're all shining, and that regardless of who wins, who loses, is one big experience, and we are all a group of athletes competing.
Awesome, great. I'm sure that's very helpful for a lot of our listeners. Talk to us now a little bit about what advice you have for fellow athletes. And hopefully one day I'll get to compete at the USA Games, but for any other athletes that hopefully in the future will get a chance, what advice do you have for them to hopefully one day get selected to compete at our USA Games?
So train hard and enjoy the moment.
Awesome. Don't
wish it by.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna go ahead and take another short sponsor break. When we come back, because if it wasn't for our supporters, we wouldn't be able to be powering. We wouldn't be able to keep the power on, and I say keep the power on because you'll understand once you all hear this next sponsor break. But when we come back, we'll get into a little bit more about your involvement in the athlete leadership programs, Alex, and some final thoughts at the end of the episode. So our guest is Alex Huegen from Special Olympics Illinois. As we're on the road to the 2022 USA Games, our conversation continues on specialchronicles.com. And hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to hear a message from our partner. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And now we return to our conversation. This episode continues right now. And we're back. Our guest is Alex Huegen from Special Olympics, Illinois, as we're on the road to the 2022 USA Games. And you mentioned the beginning of the episode about athlete leadership, but now tell us a little bit more about how you first got involved in the athlete leadership program.
So in 2011, I was asked to get trained to be a global messenger. And then I've given numerous speeches since then. But as it evolved into right around the time of the 50th, it evolved to being an athlete leader.
Mm-hmm.
So being an athlete leader means you get to lead activities. You still speak about Special Olympics. You're out there volunteering. You're out there doing a lot of stuff representing the Special Olympics.
Awesome. And if there are any new athletes that are not yet involved in the athlete leadership programs, is there any advice? What advice will you have for them to get involved in the athlete leadership programs?
Just work hard and enjoy it.
Awesome. And as we wrap up this segment, before we get to some final thoughts, what does our athlete leadership programs mean, and being an athlete leader mean to you?
Being an athlete leader means that you get to go out, represent Special Olympics, be a leader, and the leadership programs are a great way to do that.
Awesome. So before we get to some final thoughts, if you all wondered how we are able to connect and we call this podcast, and in particular, beyond just the audio podcast, but we also have a video version if you're wondering how we're able to do that. It's with a service called StreamYard. And we'll take one final break. Our guest is Alex Huegen. As we're on the road to the 2022 USA Games, we'll continue with some final thoughts after. Hey, friends, podcast listener friends. I'd like to take a brief moment to let you know about how awesome StreamYard is. StreamYard is the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. You see the link right below on the screen here, and also will be in the show notes in the description below. But all of us at Special Chronicles, we love StreamYard. I've got a coffee mug I'm drinking coffee out of. Got a t-shirt on. I've got a sweatshirt. This StreamYard Puddles plush duck. Puddles the duck here in the studio, and just really love it. Makes really love StreamYard. It makes it easy to connect with guests. Just send guests the link to join StreamYard, and easily have a professional logo and banners and graphics, and it just makes it easy to pre-record, to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Really love StreamYard. It's helped to make the audio podcasts and the video versions of the audio podcast that I've been doing for the past 13 years. Has helped to make the video versions up to the next level, to a more professional level, while also making it easy to live stream. So all of us at Special Chronicles love StreamYard. Once again, if you want to sign up with StreamYard, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard to sign up and get 10,000 credit with our referral link. I hope you all will sign up for StreamYard, and happy live streaming. And until then, sign up for StreamYard and get 10,000 credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. And now back to the show. And as we come to some final thoughts, our guest is Alex Huegen as we're on the road to the 2022 USA Games. If you all want to get involved, 2022 Special Olympics USAGames.org. That's 2022 Special Olympics USAGames.org. The link is on the screen right below here. It also will be in the show notes in the description below if you want to get involved as a volunteer, coach, supporter. And if you want to get involved in Special Olympics Illinois, SOILL.org, or go to specialolympics.org and find your local program. Is there any other plugs, Alex, on how if people want to follow you along with your journey as you prepare and compete in just 5 months from now? If can people follow you on Facebook? Or
You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram at Xander Runs for Food. And that's about it.
Awesome. So we'll put links to that in the show notes. And any advice to our over 6 million Special Olympics athletes across the globe that you want to share? And if they'll like to compete in their local countries' national games?
Just enjoy it. Enjoy it, work hard, and you'll have fun.
Awesome. And before we get to that final question I always conclude the conversations with, do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles show that you want to share with our listeners?
It was an honor being on the Special Chronicles podcast, and I look forward to doing this again one day. Yeah,
and hopefully someday in person. We'll have to record a show in person. So I always include the conversations since coming back from the Abu Dhabi World Games with as you and all the listeners know, the inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics. So this final question.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
equality,
dignity, and the recognition of our shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
And if you couldn't tell, the final, as we come to a close here, final question we always conclude our guests, and that is, I'll do the same with you and ask, what does inclusion mean to you?
So inclusion means including everybody, regardless of views, regardless of race, religion, gender, all of those things.
Awesome. And so that's a perfect way to conclude this episode. Again, folks listening, follow along. Follow Alex on Instagram and Facebook to follow his as he prepares to compete in just 5 months from now at the upcoming USA Games. We'll be back next week with the CEO of the 2022 USA Games. Will be a guest on this podcast, and we'll hopefully bring you some more guests of other athletes and maybe even some coaches or volunteers or supporters. So remember to do what you do with this podcast. Subscribe or follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. SpecialChronicles.com is where you can go for links to follow and subscribe and all that. So we'll be back next week with another exciting episode, exciting guest on this podcast. And until then, remember, choose to include. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit SpecialChronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.